The PlayStation Vita has a lot of games, and it can be kinda overwhelming for people who want to discover new titles, so in this video I'm gonna cover 25 games on the PlayStation Vita that I personally think everyone should check out. So, starting off this list is Titan Souls. This game is a top-down action-adventure title that has you fighting large bosses known as Titans. The main concept of the game is that you only have one arrow and both you and the bosses die in one single hit. It's a very different game that will force you to think outside of the box, as you're gonna have to choose how you want to use your one single arrow. Overall, it's definitely not your average game, but I did enjoy it quite a bit, so be sure to check this one out if you already haven't. And so next is Curse Castilla. This game is a tribute to Ghosts and Goblins and is a tough as nails 2D platformer that will truly test your skills. Players will have to parkour and fight off enemies, all while trying not to die as they only have 3 health. There are 8 stages with a total of 18 bosses, meaning there is a lot of gameplay packed into this title, especially if you're trying to beat it without using any continues, so if you want a challenging game with quality pixel art and music, be sure to give this one a go. And up next, Risk of Rain. Nowadays it seems like most people talk about Risk of Rain 2, but they don't bother talking about the first game, and while some might not like the 2D platformer style of the original, in my opinion I actually enjoy it far more than the second game. The original game has a ton of different upgrades to acquire, and there's a massive amount of replayable content that will keep you going for hours on end, so if you enjoy roguelikes and you've never tried the first Risk of Rain, it's still definitely worth your time. And so the next game is Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. I'm a massive fan of the original 3 Castlevania games on the NES, meaning I'm a little biased when it comes to this title, but even with that so, this is truly a remarkable old school platformer that has great pixel art and controls perfectly on the PS Vita. Along with that, the game also has a good chunk of content and even different difficulties for those who want an extra challenge. Overall, Bloodstained is an excellent game, and it's one that everyone should at least try out once on their PlayStation Vita. And up next, Metal Slug 3. This is a port of a classic run and gun shooter that is both hectic and rewarding in its gameplay. Metal Slug 3 is a truly strange game, but is considered by many to be one of the best, if not the best, in the entire series. I definitely say the Vita version is my preferred way to play, and the game graphics in general look a lot nicer on its OLED screen. So if you've never touched a Metal Slug game before, the third one is an excellent entry into the series and is worth giving a go on the Vita. And in next, Sultan Sanctuary. I talk about this game quite often, and that's because of how different it is. Sultan Sanctuary can be best described as a Metroidvania with Souls-like features that are all tied together with a hand-drawn visual style. The game has over 600 items for players to use and tons of different weapons, making it an enjoyable experience to replay all the way through, so for those who want a 2D title that is both challenging and rewarding, Sultan Sanctuary is an easy recommendation. And so the next game is Axiom Verge. This one is a 2D Metroidvania that I'm sure some people will immediately recognize because how successful the series became. Axiom Verge has you take the form of a scientist who has to evade enemies while slowly upgrading himself to become more powerful. It's a game that strongly rewards exploration as players discover new areas and find new power-ups. In my opinion, this game is best played on the Vita because of the console's D-pad and how smoothly it controls. Needless to say, Axiom Verge is a classic title that everyone should try, and the PS Vita offers an excellent way to do that. And next is Luftrausers. This game was created by the famous developer Vlambeer and has you take control of an airplane that is able to fully move 360 degrees but is only able to shoot from the front. One thing I really enjoyed about this game was how much control you have over the airplane and the extensive amount of customizable upgrades you are given. Now, something worth noting is that there are no health bars in this game, but instead circles around aircrafts which indicate how much damage you or other people have taken. Overall, I truly believe this is a game that you have to try for yourself, so if you haven't, be sure to check it out. And the next game is The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. This game became very popular because of its randomly generated levels and in-depth item system. Its gameplay has players take control of Isaac from a top-down perspective as they shoot tiers to defeat enemies, going through dungeons in a roguelike environment. It's a simple game that later on gets extremely complicated complicated, making it a good title for anyone who wants a challenge and something to play portably on their PS Vita. And next, BlazBlue Chrono Phantasma. The Vita has a good amount of fighting games, but some of them tend to blend together and feel a little generic, yet BlazBlue stands out from the others with its vast array of fighters and hand-drawn character designs. Also, the soundtrack is incorporated nicely into the game, and the Vita's button layout makes pulling off combos much easier compared to the PS3 controller, so if you're looking for a quality fighting game to take on the go, you can't do much better than BlazBlue. And so, up next is Gunslugs. This game came out in 2013 and is a side-scrolling arcade title that features minimalistic graphics as the gameplay is much more action-oriented. The game is packed with a lot of variety in terms of minigames and randomly generated levels, making every playthrough different in some way or another. What I really enjoyed about Gunslugs is that it's simplistic in design while keeping things fresh with various boss battles and different weapons, so basically if you enjoy 2D run and gun games, Gunslugs is going to be a title you'll probably enjoy. And next is Söldner-X 2 Final Prototype. The PS Vita has a nice assortment of shoot 'em ups that are all quite good and vary from one another, yet out of all the shoot 'em ups on the handheld, Söldner is one that sticks out in my mind as it looks and plays great on the Vita's display. Also, the game provides a fair amount of tutorials for beginners, which helps ease new players into the game as later on levels can become quite tough. Overall, Söldner on the Vita is a really solid shoot 'em up that is great for quick pickup and play sessions, so if you like that, be sure to check it out. And moving along, we've got Curses and Chaos. This is a single screen arcade beat 'em up that can be played alone or with other people. The game's main objective is to kill monsters in order to progress while also taking down different bosses. There are a number of different stages and items that can be mixed to drastically change how the game is played, which is nice as it gives the game some kind of variety. All in all, Curses and Chaos is a tough game that fans of classic 2D arcade genre will enjoy, so if that interests you, check it out. And in next, Steamworld Heist. This is a 2D turn-based game that focuses on tactical combat where you and a team of robots are tasked with boarding enemy ships and taking them down. The gameplay will have you customizing your team of robots and upgrading them with over 100 different weapons. On top of this, most levels in the game are procedurally generated, making each level different every time you play it, so if you like turn-based strategy games and you've never tried this one, it's well worth playing. And next, Cosmic Star Heroine. During this game's release, many were very skeptical as it seemed too good to be true, yet luckily the game ended up delivering on being a great JRPG with in-depth pixel art and solid combat that is enjoyable all the way through. The only thing worth noting with this game is that some people felt that the narrative was underwhelming, but I personally enjoyed the overall experience and the story, so I'd say if you like JRPGs and you want one for your Vita, this is a very strong contender. And so the next game is Rocketbirds Hardboiled Chicken. This game is similar to titles like Oddworld as you platform around while taking out your enemies and simply trying not to die. It features a nice array of puzzles along with plenty of weapons, giving players many different options in how they choose to approach a situation. Another thing worth noting with this game is the jetpaction stages where you have to infiltrate and then take down waves of different bad guys. Overall, I think Rocketbirds is a really cool game that fully embraces what it's trying to do, and I highly recommend you check it out. And next, Ratchet and Clank Collection. Sadly, I feel like the bad performance from the Jak and Daxter Vita game scared many people away from trying out other collections on the handheld, which is a shame because many missed out on the Ratchet and Clank one. All three games here run at a stable 30 FPS and they graphically look faithful to the originals. There isn't that much to say about this collection, but if you missed out on the old Ratchet and Clank games, this trilogy offers a great way to play them on the go, and they run at a stable FPS. And so next in is Bit.Trip Runner 2. This game is a rhythm side-scroller that has you jump and dodge to the beat of music, all while avoiding obstacles. The goal of the game is always to make it to the end of the world, where you're eventually gonna have to fight a boss. Now speaking of the bosses, they are definitely one of the highlights of this game for me, and are one of the main reasons I put it on this list. It's a simple game, but it's executed great on the handheld, as the music is catchy and the graphics really stand out amongst other favorite games, so if you've never tried a rhythm side-scroller before, this is a great place to start on the PS Vita. And next up, CastleStorm. Many might know about this game because of its popularity on mobile phones, but it actually started out originally on the PS Vita. It's a tower defense game that is addictive as it gives players 4 campaigns to play through, each with their own special elements. Also, the game has a great physics engine and it runs very smoothly on the PS Vita, so I'd say if you're looking for a simple but fun tower defense game, this is one worth trying. And in next, Super Monkey Ball Banana Splitz. The Monkey Ball series has seen a resurgence over the past few years, with many people coming back to revisit this series, which is why I put this game on the list, because it's one of the more difficult Monkey Ball titles that many might have missed out on. Also, the PS Vita's analog sticks control really well on this game, and the graphics are still very impressive, so if you didn't play this one back in the day, it's still worth giving a try, especially if you like the Monkey Ball series. And next, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. The Vita isn't really well known for having that many racing titles, which is fine as a lot of them can be fairly generic, but luckily All-Stars Racing Transformed is an exception to that rule, as it's a fun kart racer that does enough to keep itself different from the others. One of my favorite parts about this game is the transition between different vehicles all happening within one race. It's certainly a chaotic experience, but it's executed very well on the Vita, so if you haven't tried it out, it's well worth a try. And moving to the next game, we've got Super Stardust Delta. This one is a twin-stick shooter where players control a ship that is orbiting a small planet. The goal of the game is to destroy every enemy and survive, all while upgrading your ship and weapons. There are over 5 different planets, all with their own unique bosses and traits, giving a fair amount of variety between different levels. All in all, Super Stardust Delta is a very fun shooter, and it's vastly different from the other ones on the system, so if you haven't already, be sure to check this one out. And coming in next, No Heroes Allowed, No Puzzles Either. This is a sequel that mixes puzzles into the RPG mechanics that were present in the first game. It's a fairly simple concept where you play as the god of destruction who has to solve puzzles which then level up their RPG stats. The main objective is to take out the heroes who come into your dungeon by creating large monsters, which is done by matching up rows of creatures that match one another. Overall, it's a weird game, but it is a lot of fun, and it's an excellent choice for those who want a puzzle/RPG game on the PS Vita. And the next game is The Wolf Among Us. Only 2 Telltale games ended up hitting the Vita, with the other one being The Walking Dead, and while I did enjoy that game, I chose to go with The Wolf Among Us because of its dedication to the original comic series it was based on. The core premise of the game is that fairy tale characters are being killed and you have to figure out what's going on. I don't want to give too much more details away as it's a very good storyline, so if you haven't tried it out already, I highly recommend playing the first episode and seeing if you like the game. And so the final game on this list is Velocity 2X. I know this choice might come off as generic, as I'm sure most people have heard about Velocity 2X already, but I don't know how many people have actually played the game. In my opinion, what makes Velocity 2X worth playing is its ability to switch between being a platformer and a shooter, all while having some of the best music on the handheld. Along with that, the storyline is very solid and the graphics lend themselves well to the Vita's OLED screen, so put simply, if you haven't given Velocity 2X a try already, you really should, as I think it's one of the best games on the system. And well, that wraps up this video. I took my time putting together this list as I wanted to make sure I was recommending games that would appeal to many different people. Now I'm sure I missed quite a few games, but truthfully this video took quite a while to make due to the amount of editing and recording, so for now this was all I had planned to do, but down the road I might make a top 50 or even a top 100 list. It just depends on what I feel like. Anyways, I just want to say thank you for watching all the way to the very end, and to please subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps my channel out. And well, with all that said, I hope you have a good day or night, and I'll see you very soon.